Hey everybody, how's it going? Here we're starting a book review. We're reviewing the book The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. This is Steve Lundgren and Nate Streeter from StreetSmart. How you doing, Nate?
Hello, I'm doing great. This is a book that I've sent a lot of copies out over the years to different people, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Cool.
You know.
So this is part one of three parts, and each one of them is self-standing. So you can watch them as individuals, or you can kind of follow the whole thing through, and we'll kind of cover all the points that we want to cover. We recommend you read the book because it covers more than obviously we can in 3 videos.
If you don't have this book and you want it, just send me an email. Nate@paperboyprinting.com, Nate@StreetSmartAgency.com, whatever. I get all of them come to the same inbox, but I will send you the book. So
wow,
free of charge. Yeah. So
there's
if you want the book, let me know. I'll get it to you. Of course, I need your address, but
yeah, there you go.
This is a book that is great, and if you haven't read it, you absolutely should.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good. So basically, the theme is addressing key entrepreneurial issues. Boy, this is a big word, entrepreneurial, huh? Wow.
I'm glad you spelled it and I didn't. Hopefully you got that right.
I did, yeah, it's spell check, thank goodness for that.
My Minneapolis public school education usually comes out in words like that.
Yeah, I think it looks good to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's look at the main outline and kind of see what we're talking about today. So basically we have 2 main points, and they come under the main heading, Who Are You? And the first point is about defining your work sphere, and the second one is about what stage is your business in. So let's go ahead and launch into that first point. Again, the main question there: Who are you? On the first point, defining your work sphere. We've got 3 things here. Let's talk about these.
Yeah, I think most people when they start a business, and the premise of E-Myth is that most people go into business and they're a technician. They know how to do something.
Okay.
And the name of the book, E-Myth, is built around this sort of myth that if you know how to do something, you can start a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's really one of the things that Michael Gerber is trying to expose, is that knowing something about roofing puts you in no position to be a business owner.
Right.
And most people come in and, I think he says 70% technician, 20% manager, and 10% entrepreneur. And they really come in at an extreme disadvantage then, because the truth is that you have to be a lot more of a manager and an entrepreneur than most people are.
So really this first term, the technician, that's really important to understand because it really gives us some insight into this whole issue about work sphere.
Right. It's a technician is someone who does the work. So that's basically, and of course when you start a business, a lot of times you are doing the work.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I think he, in the book, he points out some of the problems you have is, okay, you do a good job doing the work. Then you get more work.
Yep.
Well, what happens? Eventually,
who's going to do the work?
Right. And then I know what happens because I was that person, and I think you were too, Steve. You owned at least one business in your life.
I can relate.
Pretty soon you're working 80, 100 hours a week. And, because you're not very, there's lots of other little things that happen too. You tend to overpromise and underdeliver, and some other things too at the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing is, okay, well then you think, okay, I need to hire somebody. So you start having to be a little bit of a manager. Perhaps you were a manager before too, so sometimes a lot of you guys do have some tendencies where you, I think for you had more manager experience than I did before I started my first business.
So really, this is sort of a key breaking point between these two, isn't it? Because if a person is so much a technician that they really can't step into that manager role, then there's really no way to grow the business.
Yeah, they'll just bump their head, and then you hear this, they go small. And he talks about that in the book even, where they hire their first person, it doesn't really work out. Yeah. And I know I'm getting into the next one here, but they kind of go here. I'll flip to it. They go from infancy to adolescence. That's really what part of what he's talking about there. And part of what happens when you go from infancy to adolescence is you bring your first people on. And then some people, because they hate having people working for them and they've never really experienced that before, and they learn all the different things that they really aren't doing correctly, well, they go small again. They go back into infancy.
And retreat.
Yeah, and then they just become the technician again.
Right.
And I know I'm pointing my hat towards it, but then they're always working in it and not on it. Working in the business and not on the business.
Right. They're the one that does the stuff, so they have to do everything.
Right. And truthfully, if you're a technician or a manager, you can still be working in it and not on it. You really have to become the entrepreneur to be working on the business.
Right.
And again, kind of hinting ahead a little bit here, but
so there's a natural sequence here. You start as a technician. Now, if a person is able to manage, then they can put technicians under them,
right?
And that's a way to grow a business.
Right. And entrepreneur is really someone who's able to vision cast and to work on it, not in it, and to understand systems and roles and a variety of different things.
So in terms of hierarchies, then the entrepreneur is talking to the manager and the manager is talking to the technicians.
That's what you'd hope for, yeah.
In a perfect world.
Right. But I think, most of, just a tremendous amount of people start off their business as a technician. What I find is a lot of people who are in corporate America who start businesses will start their business as a manager. But there actually can be minuses to that too. I often will recommend that they get into a franchise for that reason, because that can be a great fit if you're more coming in as a manager.
Because they have the natural talents for that.
Right. So I love that. If you do tend to sway as an entrepreneur, even right from the beginning, you will hate being in a franchise. And I've seen that too. So it's interesting, how this, actually at this stage even, I could tell you perhaps even what kind of business to get into based on what you are. If you are mostly a technician, it might not matter that much.
Right.
But likely you don't have enough cash in the bank to start a franchise. So,
yeah.
But let's move into this. I know we talked a little bit about this, but let's go into it further.
Right. So then the next point is about what stage is your business in, and we see 3 stages here: infancy, adolescence, and maturity. And so just like the work spheres, there's a hierarchy and a sequence.
Right. Infancy is really you are the business for the most part. So
they almost relate to the work spheres.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Infancy means the technician.
Adolescence means you're starting to figure out how to get other people to do things.
You're managing other technicians.
Right. And maturity is that you have systems in place that allow people to succeed, and
right.
Eventually you're working on it, not in it.
Right.
So a lot of people get stuck though. And this is really where I think coaching can help significantly. I'll be honest with you, Steve, it helped me tremendously. If it wasn't for the 2 coaches that I had for several years, I would have never gotten out of infancy.
Right.
And perhaps I'm being brash here, but if you feel like your business is stuck between $100,000 and $500,000 in gross revenue, that's probably what's happening to you.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be mean about that, but that was the case for me. I don't think I could have ever gotten out of infancy unless I was coached to figure out how to, be successful at hiring, and how to,
right.
manage staff, and how to really vision cast, and also helping me make the transition, because it's not just something. That's one thing I don't like about eMyth, and you and I have talked about it before.
Right.
Is this sort of idea like you can just snap your fingers and somehow make this transition from infancy to adolescence to maturity. This is not how it happens at all. I'd say a lot of people, it might take 18 months to go from infancy to adolescence, even with a smart coach who's helped lots of people do it.
Yeah.
So you do have to sort of recognize that there's a transition.
Right. The really great thing about this book is it gives you a way to talk about these things and really understand, why some of these businesses fail, the small ones, and kind of how they're started, and it's really good from that perspective. It explained a lot to me about how businesses start and grow and succeed or fail.
Yeah.
From that point of view, it's really a great book.
Yep. Actually, I'm going to, this what's next, I'm going to do it this time, Steve. How about that?
Yeah.
But what I'm just going to tell you, you can help us by leaving a Google review or sharing this. Wow, man, the biggest compliment you can give us is if you share this video with somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Or leave a comment or something like that, or like it.
Mm-hmm.
But, how we can help you, just contact us if you haven't read this book. That's the way I would just put it. If you have not read this book, I will send it to you. And if you're an Audible user, don't worry, I know how to do all that too. So I can, or even if you want the book in ebook format, so you're a Kindle user, I can send it to you that way too.
Cool.
just contact me. I'll get it to you. Because if you have not read this, there is no business owner who shouldn't read this book. So
Yeah,
how about
good.
that?
Wow,
So
you'd be nuts not to get a hold of him.
yeah, but I know a bunch of you have already, probably half the people who are listening to this are like, gosh, Nate's already sent me this. He sent me this 3 years ago. So I've already sent a lot of these out, but I'd love to get this in your hands and help you that way.
There you go.
So, and then when you start reading it, you got questions, email us, and then we'll get into the next presentations. I think you guys are going to be so excited to hear as we go through this book over the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. See you soon. Stay well.